Hi everybody, it's Matt Snyder, and I wanted to create a video this week because it's been my 1 year of time being a poet on Substack. So for every week for the past actually 53 weeks, I've shared with you a poem, and it's really grown over that year. I've been doing poetry like this for a little over 2 years. I started in the early summer, maybe late spring, about 2 years ago, a little more than. And I had sort of dabbled in poetry a tiny bit. I'm a fiction writer as well. And so I just, I was in a space where I needed to do some creativity and keep my writing gears turning. So I just kind of, for no particular reason, decided to start writing poetry. And at the time, and I still do share on my social media, out on Facebook and Instagram. But about a year ago, I found, hey, why don't I try Substack? And it's been the best thing ever. So I now have not quite 250 subscribers. We're getting really close to that number actually now. That's just amazing to me that there are 250 people out there. Some I know, most I don't personally, but I've come to know them in the comments and really look forward to that every week. So first of all, let me just say thank you for being a reader, and I hope to bring you more poetry. There's no plans to stop. We may mess with the schedule a little bit, maybe not every single week as we're trying to do some other things. I'm trying to do some other things, but definitely going to keep going and bring some original poetry to you. So today I'm going to read you a few of the poems that I thought either I really love them or they seem to be pretty popular. They seem to resonate with good comments and likes and so on. So the first one I'm going to read is one that I think actually might have been maybe the most popular up until recently. It was a really a hot item with a lot of reaction that really delighted me back earlier in the spring, and it's called Icarus Descending. I wonder if the sun tastes like an orange, or is it a grapefruit full of bitterness? Had I gone at night, I might have heard a knocking on this hollow earth, the precious sounds of footfalls, bones rattling in the soil, the great cooing of a collective wind, the fickleness of petty gods and the brief tenure of their days, the overturn of silver maples, the sigh, the vast and lonely sigh of the world's unfinished state. Had I gone at night, I might have seen what expatriates see of home. The sun wants supple beeswax. Let the moon draw tallow smoke. I'm going down to hollow ground, wondering all the way about hexagons and crow and eagle feathers, owls and foxes and wheat sheaves, about the wind and aerodynamics, last times and first times all at once. I'm wondering about wonder itself and how it might fill up the empty earth, in furrows for our fertile doubts, of the stars and their obscure shapes, the impermanence of thoughts descending, amid the rising sound of voices, childlike voices, heartache voices. Those damned gods and their rival, the secret of fire passed down as sweetness for my tongue. Or is it salt and bitterness, I wonder? So that's Icarus Descending. That one really came out of kind of just a wild thought that popped in my head. That was really the first line, I wonder if the sun tastes like an orange. And it just kind of ran from there. And I have a big fondness for classical mythology, of course, and studied it a bit way back in the old days. So I like to bring that into my poetry once in a while. Don't like to overdo it, but that one really works well as a sort of my ode to Icarus. Okay, now I'm going to bring it back down to earth a little bit more, although maybe not, with a little biblical thing. Last April, I went out to visit my daughter. She lives in Brooklyn. Hi, Kate. And when I went out there, I had been to New York many times, although I've only been to Brooklyn once. And I was just struck by how much the city was really at tense with itself, just in tension with itself, mainly because of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And there were lots of graffiti. There was graffiti that was crossed out. I actually took a photo of the bathroom door at the Rialto, which is across the street from my daughter's house, apartment, and it had a Free Palestine image on it. And it just really struck me that it was everywhere and that the city was kind of seething with it. And then I was thinking about Kate and Anna and just kind of their life there and how they're living amid all that. So I wrote, John the Revelator Goes to Brooklyn. Around Prospect Heights, brownstone stoops arranged in file like a Rolodex. The daughters of Brooklyn wear the apocalypse like a shoulder bag full of stones. The daughters scurry ahead of some fleeing rats. They are as far from Zion as a stone's throw. Still they are reaching for any sign that's coming. A sign for pain and a sign for law. 5 more stops to come. All right, so my next one is one of my most recent poems that really seemed to maybe be the most popular one lately in terms of traffic and attention. But it hits quite close to home, quite literally, because this is a poem about growing up with my parents and my brothers and sisters in the 80s, mostly, for my age anyway. And just all the amazing times we had, and then, you know, sort of my mom and dad still live there, going through some health troubles, which is kind of what spurred this poem on. So I'm just going to read this in kind of a tribute to my youth. The center of the known universe. They chanted baseball scores like the language of birds learned on an Axis Mundi pitcher's mound. They dealt cards by 2s and 3s. Jack and Jick took every trick. Magicians of steady hands, flat-footed impalas, coursers, flyers, rangers, far-flingers, trenchers and root cutters. They gathered on the porch with mosquitoes, cicada killers, groundhogs, twilight bats, geraniums and hydrangeas, a hibiscus with a single bloom. The numbers changed 3 times, but the address was still the same. Days kind by every measure, coffee ground, grief red-eyed, the doors that never closed. They charmed bull snakes with Coors Light and armpit sweat. They sang and scored, feasted, whole hog and hickory, home runs. One June they strung up lights like fireflies were Noah's only guests, a night game that put the moon to sleep. They felled octogenarian trees, a barn raising, bulldozed and buried, 2 dogs and a turtle down there in their little underworld. They told everyone they knew to come, where the doors were never closed. So the photo that I posted with that picture actually is Mom's hibiscus, so she gets a little credit for that one. So this is a poem that is sort of my way of creating a personal mythology. It's still a bit of a work in progress. In fact, I recently workshopped this poem with the Creative Writers Collective, and I can't say enough good things about that. So about 3 or 4 months ago, give or take, I joined a poetry collective, which is essentially an online support and critique group, and it's amazing. Like the quality of all the participants and the tutoring and the lectures and seminars from guest poets, it's just astounding. So we recently workshopped this. I haven't really revised it yet, although I plan to. I will read another revision of another poem of mine in a second, but I want to read this one first, trying to nod toward sort of the hidden parts of how you think about things, maybe almost sort of a Jungian idea. This is called occultism. In my secret world, there are no pesky grackles, no queen of hearts, no demented memories that bleed in trickles like martyrs weep, for there are no martyrs. There are gravel pits and steam shovels, crows and midnight shifts, and court astrologers calculating the cost of labor pains on slates. The queen of clubs is there, in secret in my secret world. She knows nothing of downtrodden troubadours who sing her treacheries. There is black soil. There is thunderous petrichor. There is fulgurite on the desert's edge that's creeping ever closer. There is a last clock tower that marks the fleeting days. But there is no moon to host my superstitions. No sliver, no hidden face who knows all the wherefores amid the cackling of the crows, the whispers of the working man, the whistling in my raving dreams, my strange and lonely dreams. I have no moon here, but oh, there are stars. 1,000 million other suns. They are the stars of secret worlds, of every subject of every queen. They are far and bright, and they are legion. So that's occultism. I'm going to let it speak for itself. Okay. Up until I joined the collective, I would say I thought that this was my best poem. You know, every once in a while you have a poem, you think, oh, that one's really great. I was just so enamored of this one, and I still think it's lovely. But I'm going to finish with one that I think is my best. So this is one that's kind of about my life in my current state as a now divorced guy living on my own in an empty nest. And this is called The Burning of the Great Library of Alexandria. 1. Tabula rasa. Blackboard chalk hung in our throats, cloyed on our tongues. We worked out the math of what goes into long division. 2. Adieu. Speak in tongues with me in the dark. Drink the Willamette wine until our words are curled like snakes intertwined at creation. 3. Modus vivendi. Intermission is no time to recall what came before us or after. Our breaths rise and fall, a Carthage of our own making. 4. En fuego. In the end, I'll burn the books, for warmth more than light. I'll have no patience for words hanging as indefinitely as chalk dust. 5. De profundis. I reveal to you at last the great coup de grace. This will never be yours, nor your memory to restore. Don't worry, I'm not going to burn the books. I'm a little too fond of them. Okay, so I wanted to wrap it up and then maybe talk a little bit about what's going to happen for the rest of the year. This is the poem that I'm most fond of. This is my favorite poem of mine, I guess I could say, if I can be so bold. This is called After the Flood, and I wrote this while I was on a road trip this summer. Just took a little road trip for myself. Didn't really have a plan or where to go. Just wanted to drive around Iowa where I live. And I've lived here my whole life. So I just drove to the east side of the state, drove up north along the Mississippi. Then I kind of went along the north side of the state, went kayaking, saw an old friend, and then just came home. But this poem talks a little bit about that journey and maybe a little more in between. So this is After the Flood. Oh, and this is a revision. So again, thanks to the Creative Writers Collective, a lot of good input and feedback on this from several different poets. Thank you, all of you who offered some advice. This is the cleaned up version, if you will, and I think it's the first time anybody's hearing this. After the Flood. I turned north at LeClaire on 97, driving against the Mississippi flow, past river towns that run long and narrow. Towns like half-remembered folk songs, Princeton and Shafton and on to Clinton. Towns like verses that rhyme with themselves, shedding miraculous light on murky waters. But they were beset with disaster, pumping the Mississippi back into itself. They had their locks wide open to sickly green floods like dysentery curdling at their back doorsteps. I saw a game in the bottom of the 8th. I saw a dark egret with an eye like a curse. I saw every green Iowa can put forth. Full spectrum green up in dairy country. July corn like a quilt, green brilliant and dark. I saw green ivy crawling skyward on old brick facades and wondered what they were. I saw a speckled fawn dead on a curve. I saw a woman selling honey in the sun. I saw the highway ahead of me, miles and miles in a canyon of trees. I saw the surging aorta of America pumping its nitrates into the Gulf. I saw graffiti on a great bridge that read, "God is love," but it was crossed out and instead it said, "Love is dead." So I thought to myself, dejected, "Eat your wretched heart out, Nietzsche. I'm going to Illinois where the greens won't make me weep for the weary past. Crying won't help you, praying won't do you no good." But I couldn't hold back the flood. When I came back, I saw our future. A fat old king snake eating its tail, keeping itself company, full on retributions. Our fortune written in its green-black scales, spelled out in singular profundity, promises at the tip of its forked tongue. But lonely was all I could remember when I heard you calling in hotel dreams. Okay, so those were the poems I wanted to share at a one-year anniversary. Last year at about this same time, maybe earlier in the summer, I had been doing my poetry for about a year on social media, and I really wanted to put together what poets call a chapbook, or just a short book of poetry. And I've since had sort of a crisis of confidence here on whether that is going to be worth it. But I think I'm going to revisit that and maybe put together some of my older work, and then just probably put that together just so readers can have an option to buy that, for a really modest fee. I don't really want to make any money on it, just maybe get the book out there to you. maybe buy me a whiskey or a coffee or something. So I'll be working on that here this fall. I'll keep you posted as I do that. I'll keep the poetry coming. I have no plans to stop. I think maybe a little bit later on this year, I might slow down just to work on some other things. I need to get back to fiction writing as well. So stay tuned. I promise to keep you updated. And just a huge thank you to all of you people who are reading. Please keep commenting and liking and sharing. It really makes me feel great. So thanks very much.